it's a time when we get to share in person, either in person or virtually, um, some of the new advances that have happened throughout the year, what underpins the guidelines, recommendations, developments, and actually have the panel experts there to answer questions, should there be any, from the audience. So a key part of the annual conference is to cover some of the highlights of the guidelines that have been, published over the past year. In addition to clinical updates and reviews, we also recognize that it is important in cancer care to focus on the total care delivery process. So it's not just educating healthcare providers on what the appropriate treatment is, but it's also empowering administrators and others within the healthcare organization in best practices. So some of the topics that we will be covering at this year's annual conference include issues related to the ongoing drug shortages and what are strategies to perhaps mitigate that, how to develop appropriate teams. Cancer care is a team-based process. How do you allocate responsibilities and communicate seamlessly between these team members? A discussion on the roles of advanced practice providers. They are playing an increasingly important role in cancer care. Two other things that I'm actually really interested in learning about is what is the appropriate balance of inpatient versus outpatient care in oncology as we're navigating that. And something that is at the top of everybody's mind these days, the role of AI in oncology. The conference grows each year. We expect to have, we both have an in-person as well as a virtual component of the conference. So we would hope to have, somewhere close to 2,000 total participants, multidisciplinary involvement. Beyond these lectures and didactics, we also are going to have 200 posters, scientific posters presented. And NCCN supports young investigators, and the young investigators don't actually have to be physicians. The young investigators can be anyone in a healthcare field. So it could be someone from nursing also who does a research project. If they get funded, we actually invite them back 2 to 3 years later to present on the results of their finding. So it's a great mixture of emerging science, new investigation. But one of the things that NCCN does is it also codifies the science. We have experts that reviews the science and come to an evidence-based, consensus-mediated decision on how best to approach different clinical scenarios. So it's broad overall review, updating people on the best science, the best practices, and also direct new investigational studies. With the pandemic, we had to switch to an all virtual format. Last year, 2023, we finally came back to an in-person component, even though there is a continued virtual element to it. But I do think that these meetings do benefit from an in-person attendance as much as possible, because beyond sitting in the audience and learning, there's a chance to interact. And we've provided multiple options for attendees to interact with the speakers. So for example, the posters, we have a follow the leader, a a thought leader will take a number of individuals and discuss a handful of posters. We also we have something called continue the conversation, that after a presenter has talked about the topic, they may spend some time sitting down with members of the audience so that they can have an interchange, a direct interchange. And I think that at these times of perhaps informal interchange is where new ideas, new relationships are developed that end up being very meaningful and impactful.